Hi, it's Mark Donegan with the Marketing Execution Podcast. Here's an interesting strategy you want to know about. Amazon doesn't start with what it can build. They start with what customers want, then work backwards. Most companies do the opposite. They inventory their skills first, then chase whatever seems easiest. This episode breaks down Amazon's actual playbook, starting with the press release before the product, then covering the 6-page memo that kills PowerPoint, and finally discussing the bar raisers who can veto any hire. I've spent years helping B2B tech companies execute, and these principles apply.
It's marketing time. Bright ideas sparking, growing your mind. From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Welcome to the Marketing Execution Podcast. This is the show for tech founders and leaders building B2B products and technologies. We show you how to go further, faster to get the business results you need.
From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Mark, I've been chewing on something all week. You know how everyone in startup land is obsessed with finding the next growth hack or the perfect marketing channel? Well, I stumbled across this breakdown of Amazon's internal playbook, and it completely reframed how I think about building a company.
Oh yeah, Working Backwards by Colin Bryant and Bill Carr. I actually know some folks who worked under that system. What caught your attention?
So here's what got me. They argue that Amazon's success isn't about being smarter or having more resources. It's about deliberately designing your company's processes to enforce the culture you want. Like, you don't just write down your values on a poster and hope people follow them.
Yes, this is something I see founders mess up all the time. They think culture is about ping pong tables and mission statements. But Amazon figured out something that, honestly, most companies never grasp. Culture is what happens when you're not in the room. And the only way to control that is through the systems you build. Right. So walk me
Through this, how does that actually work in practice?
Okay, so the first thing, and this is huge, is what they call working backwards. Most companies work forwards. They look at what skills they have, what resources are available, and then they say, okay, what can we build with this stuff? Amazon flips it completely. They start with the customer experience they want to create, and then they figure out what they need to get there.
That sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do that day to day?
This is where it gets really practical. They have this thing called the product development proposal. Before any team can start building something new, they have to write a hypothetical press release announcing the finished product. Like, imagine the product is done and you're telling the world about it. What does it do? Why does the customer care?
Wait, so they're writing marketing copy before they write a single line of code?
Exactly. And here's what I think most people miss. The press release isn't really about marketing. It's a forcing function. It makes you articulate the value proposition so clearly that you can't hide behind technical jargon or vague promises. If you can't write a compelling press release, you probably don't understand your customer well enough to build the thing.
That's actually kind of brilliant. I've seen so many startups build something and then scramble to figure out how to explain it.
And they don't stop there. The second part of the proposal is this FAQ section, where you have to answer all the hard questions. How much will it cost? What are the biggest risks? What could go wrong? You're basically doing a Socratic dialogue with yourself before anyone else can poke holes in your idea.
So you're stress testing the concept before you invest anything.
Right. And here's what I love about this for founders listening to the Marketing Execution Podcast. This isn't just for product teams. You can use this framework for a marketing campaign, a new channel strategy, anything. Write the press release first. What's the headline? What's the customer benefit? If you can't nail that, don't spend the money.
Okay, so that's the first big insight. What else jumped out at you from their playbook?
The second thing is how they run meetings. They completely banned PowerPoint presentation.
Oh man, that would cause a revolt at most companies.
I know, right? But here's why it's genius. Slides are terrible for communicating complex ideas. You've got like 6 words on a screen and someone talking at you. Amazon replaced that with what they call the deep thinking document. It's basically a detailed written argument, and everyone in the meeting spends the first 15 or 20 minutes just reading it in silence.
So no one comes in unprepared and just wings it.
Exactly. And because everyone reads at their own pace, they can flip back and forth, really digest the argument. Then the discussion that follows is so much more productive. You're not reacting in real time to something you half understood. You've actually thought about it.
I could see this being really powerful for strategy discussions, like when you're debating which market to go after or how to position against a competitor.
100%. And there's a deeper principle here. Amazon has this guiding value that everyone should do higher quality work than anyone would reasonably expect. The document format enforces that. You can't hide weak thinking behind flashy slides. Your logic is right there on the page for everyone to scrutinize.
I feel like half the pitch decks I've seen are basically hiding weak thinking behind pretty graphics.
You're not wrong. And look, I'm not saying every startup needs to ban presentations tomorrow, but the principle is sound. Whatever format you use, make sure it forces clarity and deep thinking, not just performance.
Okay, so we've got working backwards with the press release method, and we've got replacing slides with deep thinking documents. What's the third piece?
This one is about team structure, and it's something I've seen destroy startups when they get it wrong. Amazon uses what they call single responsibility teams. Every team has one mission, one leader whose only job is to accomplish that mission, and they're given the autonomy to resolve any dependencies that get in their way.
Dependencies meaning like when you're waiting on another team to do something before you can move forward.
Exactly. And this is critical. Most companies, when they hit a dependency, they just work around it. They wait, they coordinate, they have meetings about meetings. Amazon says no. If your team has a dependency, it's your job to eliminate it. Hire someone, build a tool, whatever it takes.
So instead of a marketing team waiting on the engineering team to build an integration, they just bring that capability in-house.
If that's what it takes to accomplish their mission, yes. And here's the benefit that isn't obvious at first. When you eliminate dependencies, you enable flow. Your team can actually get into that deep work state where they're making real progress instead of constantly context switching and waiting around.
Mark, that's fascinating. Let's pivot for a second and talk about what this means for a founder who's still in the early stages and doesn't have the resources to build these autonomous teams yet.
You know, that's actually the question that matters most. Because here's the thing, Tim. The principles don't change just because you're small. The scale changes, the implementation changes. But the core idea, it's actually more powerful when you're scrappy.
Okay, break that down for me. Because I'm thinking about a founder with maybe 3 people on a team wearing 17 different hats.
Right. So let's go back to that press release exercise. You don't need a product development team to do this. You need a Google Doc and 30 minutes of honest thinking. And honestly, early stage founders need this more than Amazon does. Because when you're small, every decision matters so much more. You can't afford to build the wrong thing. I know of a company, a 2-person startup, and they were about to spend 6 months building this elaborate feature set, really complex stuff. And I asked them, okay, write me the press release. What's the headline? What does the customer actually care about? Oh, and they couldn't do it? They could do it, but what they wrote was completely different from what they were planning to build. The headline they came up with was about saving time, but the feature they were building, it was about adding more options, more customization, totally backwards.
So the exercise revealed the gap between what they thought customers wanted and what customers actually wanted.
Exactly. And look, they didn't need 7 interviewers or a culture protector to figure that out. They just needed to force themselves to think from the customer's perspective first. That's free. That costs nothing.
Ah, man, you're so right. There's this bias towards complexity. People think if the solution is simple, it must not be sophisticated enough. But the opposite is true. Simple is hard. Writing a clear, compelling press release in 2 paragraphs, that's much harder than building a 50-slide deck full of features.
So the working backwards principle actually becomes a competitive advantage for small teams because big companies have all these layers of bureaucracy that slow them down. Yes, and here's what I think is the real insight that most people miss when they read about Amazon's playbook. It's not about copying their processes, it's about understanding why those processes exist. Amazon built those systems to solve specific problems that emerge when you scale. But the underlying principle, start with the customer and work backwards, that's universal.
So a small team should ask themselves, what problem is this process solving? And then find their own lightweight version of that solution.
You got it. Take the deep thinking document. A 3-person startup doesn't need formal 6-page memos for every decision, but they do need to write things down because when you write, you think. You can't hide fuzzy logic in a written argument the way you can in a conversation.
I've seen this play out in my own experience. When I force myself to write out a strategy before pitching it to anyone, I catch all these holes in my reasoning.
And that's the point. The document isn't for anyone else, it's for you. It's a forcing function for clarity. Amazon just formalized it because at their scale, they needed everyone to do it the same way.
Okay, so we've got the press release for product clarity, writing things down for strategic thinking. What about the team structure stuff? The single responsibility model seems like it requires more resources.
Yeah, you can't exactly have autonomous teams when you are the team. But here's the principle underneath it. Dependencies kill momentum. And that's true whether you have 10,000 employees or 10.
So how does a small founder think about that?
You identify where you're getting stuck. Where are you waiting on something or someone before you can move forward? And then you ask, can I eliminate this bottleneck permanently? Maybe that means learning a new skill. Maybe it means bringing on a contractor. Maybe it means changing your whole approach so you don't need that dependency at all.
That reframe is really powerful. Instead of just managing dependencies, you're actively hunting them down and eliminating them.
Right. And when you're small, you can actually do this faster than a big company. You don't need approval from 3 levels of management. You just decide and act.
Mark, this is gold. I think we've really unpacked why these principles matter at any stage. Let's shift gears and get super tactical. For founders listening right now, what are the specific steps they can take this week to start implementing this stuff?
Okay, let's get into how people can actually use this stuff.
Yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Give me the playbook.
Okay, so first thing, this week I want every founder listening to do the press release exercise. But here's the key. You're not writing it for investors. You're not writing it for your board. You're writing it for your customer. Walk me through that. Grab a blank doc. Write a headline that announces your product to the world. What does it say? And I mean literally, what would make someone stop scrolling and pay attention?
So like if I'm building a scheduling tool, I wouldn't write new scheduling software launches.
Right, because nobody cares about that. You'd write something like, small business owners save 10 hours a week with one-click scheduling. See the difference? One is about you. One is about them.
And if you can't write that headline clearly, you've got a problem.
Yeah, Calendly figured this out early. They didn't sell features. They sold the feeling of never going back and forth on email again. That's what their press release would say. No more email tennis.
Email tennis. I love that.
And look, the second part of this exercise is just as important. Write down 5 questions a skeptical customer would ask, then answer them honestly. Can you actually deliver on this promise? What's the catch? How much does it cost?
So you're basically stress testing your own idea before you build anything.
Exactly. Notion did this brilliantly. Before they became this massive company, they asked themselves, why would anyone switch from Google Docs? And they had to have a real answer. Their answer was, because we let you build your own workspace, everything in one place.
That's so different from just listing features.
Totally different. Okay, second thing founders can do this week, kill one dependency.
Wait, what do you mean by dependence?
A dependency is anywhere you're stuck waiting on someone or something before you can move forward. Maybe you're waiting on a designer to finish mockups. Maybe you're waiting on legal to review a contract. Maybe you're waiting on a co-founder to make a decision.
Oh man, I feel attacked right now.
We all have them. The point is, pick one this week and figure out how to eliminate it permanently. Not work around it, eliminate it.
Give me an example.
Okay, for example, a startup that was constantly waiting on their one developer to push updates. Everything bottlenecked through this one person. So they invested 2 weeks teaching their marketing lead basic deployment skills, just the basics. Now that dependency is gone forever.
So they didn't hire someone new, they just redistributed the skill.
Right. And here's what Stripe did early on. They realized customer support was creating dependencies across the whole company. Engineers were getting pulled into support tickets, so they made it a rule that every engineer does support rotation. Now engineers understand customer problems firsthand. No more waiting for someone to translate the issue.
That's clever. The dependency became a feature of the culture.
Yes, and the third thing, this one's maybe the most important. Write down your decisions before you make them. Before any big decision, spend 30 minutes writing out your reasoning. What problem are you solving? What options did you consider? Why are you choosing this path? Amazon calls these 6-page memos, but you don't need 6 pages. You need 1 page of honest thinking.
I skip this step all the time. I just talk through decisions in meetings.
And that's where fuzzy logic hides. When you talk, you can wave your hands and people nod along. When you write, every gap in your reasoning shows up on the page.
So the document isn't really for other people.
It's for you. It forces clarity. And then later you can look back and see if your reasoning held up. That's how you get better at making decisions over time.
Okay, so let me recap what I'm hearing. Step 1, write a customer-focused press release for your product. Step 2, identify and eliminate one dependency this week. Step 3, write down your reasoning before big decisions.
That's it. 3 things. All free, all doable in the next 7 days.
I love how concrete this is.
And here's the thing. These aren't just tactics, they're habits. The founders who do this stuff consistently are the ones who build companies that scale. Because when you're 50 people, 100 people, these habits become your culture.
Mark, this has been incredible. We've covered so much ground today. Can you give us the big picture summary? Like if someone only remembers one thing from this whole conversation, what should it be?
All right, let me bring this all together. We started by talking about how Amazon built their success not through luck or resources, but through deliberate systems that enforce their culture. The first big idea was working backwards. You write the press release before you build anything. You force yourself to articulate the customer benefits so clearly that you can't hide behind vague promises. And then we talked about killing PowerPoint and replacing it with written documents that expose fuzzy thinking. You can't wave your hands when your logic is right there on the page, right? And finally, we covered the single responsibility model. Dependencies kill momentum, so you hunt them down and eliminate them permanently. The tactical stuff is simple. Write your customer-focused press release, kill one dependency this week, document your reasoning before big decisions. These aren't fancy frameworks, they're habits that compound over time.
Mark, after everything we've discussed today, what's the one thing you really hope people don't forget?
Your company becomes whatever you repeatedly do, not what you say you believe, not what's on your website, what you actually do every single day. So if you want a customer-obsessed culture, you have to build systems that force customer obsession into every decision. The press release exercise does that. The written documents do that. Eliminating dependencies does that. Stop hoping your team will figure it out. Design your processes so they can't get it wrong. That's the real secret, because culture is architecture. The Marketing Execution Podcast is produced by Growth Stage Marketing. We are on a mission to see your company reach wild success using marketing pods.
Too big, accept dreams. Catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the marketing execution movement and community. To learn how growth stage marketing clients reach more buyers and drive business impact, go to growthstage.marketing. That's growthstage.marketing.